Good morning, everybody. I hope that this video finds you safe and healthy this morning. We're going to start out with the core practice. So if you'll find a comfortable spot to sit, relax your body, close your eyes, and take deep breaths. So today I am grateful to Beverly Cleary, the author, and to Ramona because we're about to finish the series this morning. If you remember last month, Beverly Cleary had a birthday. She's still alive and she turned 104 years old. So I am grateful to her and for writing all of those wonderful books. When I was in the third grade, my teacher read the Ramona books to us. And I loved them when I was in the third grade. So that's why I read them to you. So I am grateful to her and to Ramona because I think she's an awesome character. So we're going to finish off the book today. Remember, it was Ramona's birthday and they were at the park. And Danny and all of his friends had just shown up and were scaring the girls. And they hid under a table. "You can come out now," Ramona ordered her less than perfect guest. Roberta stopped howling and looked surprised to see girls crawl out from under the table. She was old enough to know girls did not belong under tables. Mrs. Quimby returned the baby to her car seat on the grass, where, worn out by excitement, she fell asleep. Somehow, with Ramona helping, Mrs. Quimby managed to serve everyone ice cream, light the candles, and say, "Make a wish." Ramona closed her eyes, unsure of what to wish for. New skates? Susan transferred to another room at school? She settled on an all-purpose wish. "I wish all my wishes would come true." And then she blew out her candles with one breath. "No cake for me, please," said Susan. "I brought an apple." The girls looked at her in surprise as she pulled an apple out of her pocket. "Not eat birthday cake? Everyone ate birthday cake." "There might be spit on the cake from blowing out the candles," explained Susan. Ramona was shocked. "I did not spit on my birthday cake," she informed Susan, while her mother continued to serve cake as if nothing terrible had been said. Susan was very sure of herself. "You could have. Little bits of spit so tiny you couldn't see them." The girls began to giggle. Susan looked superior in that annoying way of hers and said, "My mother says blowing out candles is unsanitary and cake can give you cavities." She crunched into her apple. The girls stopped giggling and looked thoughtfully at their cake. "You ate cake at other people's birthday parties," said an indignant Ramona. "I saw you." Susan had an explanation. "Yes, but that was before Mother read a book on how to stay healthy." Now Daisy spoke up. "I think that's silly. I'm going to eat my cake. I've eaten birthday cake all my life and I'm still alive." Ramona was glad she had Daisy for a best friend. Susan went on crunching her apple. She frowned. Obviously, she did not like to hear her mother and the book called silly. "All right, girls," said Mrs. Quimby, smiling brightly. "You don't have to eat your cake if you don't want to." Used to Quimby's spit, she took a bite of her own cake. "I hope your apple has a worm in it," Ramona whispered to Susan. 3 girls carefully scraped their whipped cream aside. 2 did not touch their cake, but ate their ice cream. The rest ate as if nothing had happened. "I think you are all being dumb," Daisy said to the non-eaters. "If you can't see spit, maybe it isn't there." "You can't see germs, and they can make you sick," someone pointed out. 2 girls laid down their plastic forks. "I don't have germs," Ramona insisted. "Of course you do," someone said. "Everyone has germs. You can't see them, but they're there." This set off an argument about germs. How small they were, did they stick together, could they jump? Even though she suspected her mother was being amused, Ramona spoke sternly to her guests. "You aren't supposed to talk about germs at someone's birthday party." Daisy spoke up once more. Who cares about a few tiny germs? It's not like we picked something up off the sidewalk or bit into something someone else was eating. All the guests except Susan began to eat their cake, which after all looked delicious. So there, Susan, said one of the girls before she took a big bite. See what you're missing, another one said. Everyone except Susan agreed that whipped cream was better than frosting. They all wanted whipped cream on their birthday cakes, too. To everyone's surprise, Susan threw her apple across the lawn without even trying to hit the trash can. Her face crumpled as if she were about to burst into tears. Ramona was stunned. People didn't cry at birthday parties unless they were little and missed their moms. The rest of the girls were shocked into silence. Why, Susan, Mrs. Quimby put a comforting arm around her shoulders. Whatever is the matter, dear? Everything, said Susan through her tears. Nobody likes me, and everybody likes Ramona. You're supposed to like people on their birthdays, Ramona tried to explain to make things better. I don't just mean on your birthday, said Susan with a tearful gulp. I mean every day. People even make valentines for you. All mine were store-bought. You aren't perfect, and no one cares. Ramona wasn't sure about the part about nobody caring. Take Mrs. Meacham and spelling. I'm supposed to be perfect every single minute, said Susan, her chin quivering. How awful, thought Ramona, beginning to feel sorry for Susan. Nobody's perfect, Mrs. Quimby reminded Susan. I could tell you a few things about Ramona, like the time she was playing at Daisy's house. Mother! Cried Ramona. The guests were immediately alert to a dark secret about to be revealed. Having distracted the guests, Mrs. Quimby did not continue. Susan was too engrossed in her troubles to be curious. She sniffed and said, Even Yard Ape likes Ramona. Here they are at the table, and you see that Susan is upset. Here, Ramona modestly lowered her eyes. Other girls giggled. Mrs. Quimby hugged Susan and said, Cheer up. Things are often not as bad as they seem. That's right, agreed Ramona. I survived spelling. These words seemed to comfort Susan. Maybe I could eat a little piece of cake, she ventured with a sniff. I don't think Mother would mind if I don't eat the whipped cream and if I brush my teeth as soon as I get home. Ramona was relieved that the other girls did not laugh at Susan. It must be terrible, always having to be perfect when everyone else was messy and full of faults part of the time, maybe even most of the time. She discovered she really felt sorry for Susan. The other girls' attention had been diverted from Susan. Mrs. Quimby, tell us about what happened when Ramona was playing at Daisy's house, one of the girls requested. Fortunately, at that moment, Roberta woke up, felt wet and neglected, and began to cry. Mrs. Quimby, having comforted Susan, went off to change and soothe Roberta. Daisy, eager that the question not be answered when Mrs. Quimby returned, said, Let's see who has the biggest calluses. Hands were held out, calluses felt, and it was agreed that those who lived closest to the park were lucky. Ramona felt secure. By the end of summer, she would have super calluses. Mrs. Quimby finished changing Roberta's diaper and returned to the table with the smiling baby in her arms. Before anyone could ask again what had happened at her house, Daisy spoke up. Let's go play on the rings! The girls, even Susan, scrambled from the table, remembered their manners, and chorused, Thank you for the party, before they ran off to the rings. Mrs. Quimby started to clear the table with her free hand. And even though she wasn't sure a birthday girl should have to clean up after her own party, Ramona felt obliged to help. After all, she lived near the park and would have plenty of time to swing on the rings when school was out. You know, Ramona, said Mrs. Quimby, Susan's mother isn't the only one who has read a book. The book I read said 10 is the nicest age of growing up. It said 10-year-olds are pleasant and agreeable. That's me, said Ramona, suddenly at her pleasant and agreeable best. Mrs. Quimby dropped a kiss on Ramona's hair before she changed the subject. I wonder what we should do with the rest of this cake, she said. Whipped cream doesn't keep very long. Ramona saw Yard Ape and his merry band of 2 running across the grass. Feed it to the boys, she said to her mother, and called out, Hey, Yard Ape, want some birthday cake? Sure. Danny picked up a tennis ball and began a beginning player had batted over the fence and threw it back. Then he and his friends came running. Ramona seized the knife and clumsily divided the leftover cake into 3 pieces. The boys picked up their cake with their fingers and sang, led by Yard Ape, "Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ramona. You belong in a zoo." Ramona could ignore the part about the zoo because she was secretly pleased that Yard Ape had called her Dear Ramona, even if the words were part of a song everyone knew. The boys finished their cake, licked their germy fingers, and wiped them on the seats of their germy pants. "Thank you for the birthday cake," said Yard Ape, who must have been taught manners, even if they did not show at school. "Happy 10th birthday, 0teenth," corrected Ramona. "I'm a teenager now." There she is on the rings. Yard Ape stopped. "I never thought of it that way." He started off across the grass. "And I'm a potential grown-up," Ramona called after him. "Me too," Yard Ape shouted back. "Come on, Ramona," one of the girls called out. "It's your birthday." "Run along," said Mrs. Quimby as she returned Roberta to her car seat. "I'm coming," Ramona answered. Her sticky fingers would help keep her hands from sliding off the rings. The sky was blue. Little children still laughed and splashed in the wading pool. The rings clanged. She felt better about Susan. Yard Ape liked her. The day was perfect. Well, not really, but close enough. That's the end of the book and the end of the Ramona books. So it's kind of a bittersweet day today. So on Monday, we'll start out reading some old favorites from our classroom and maybe some new picture books that I have here at the house. So I hope you guys have a really good weekend, and I will see you back here on Monday.